Okay, so welcome to another episode of Combustible Brains, where we talk about intelligent things
And we shit on people.
and we shit on people, yes. So today, we have a message for Steve Jobs before we start our episode. Ra.
Yep, this is gonna be kind of like a rant from us because we have been trying to figure out how to get a stereo mic working in Mac, which sounds stupid, but holy shit, did we spend so much time on this, man.
Yeah, Steve Jobs, you need to fire some people, man. You need to go into work tomorrow, find your audio engineering department and fire like 20% of them just to send a message. It's very important.
Dude, it was so frustratingly annoying.
Yeah, dude, like
Just some of those things that we were dealing with few minutes ago. So I think we need to give people like a background, right? So we both are working on the M1 Max. You are actually working on M1 Pro Mac.
M1 Pro, baby.
Yep, exactly. And what we were trying to do is nothing awesome, nothing groundbreaking. We were just trying to connect our stereo microphone, USB microphone to our Mac and get it recording while having the phone call as well. And
Not phone caller, it was a FaceTime caller.
yeah,
It seems
FaceTime,
to be
FaceTime.
fucking everything up.
Exactly. And initially we thought that Signal was screwing things up, but turns out that FaceTime was even worse, which to our surprise is, for a change, Signal is technologically not screwing us over.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what's going on. I still don't know what's going on with Signal or FaceTime and all this. I had to connect my old interface, and yesterday a friend of mine, Naval, also had similar issues with Mac. So there is something going on with these stupid fucking new Macs or the new OS or whatever. Steve Jobs, not Steve Jobs. Who's that guy? Steve Jobs is
Tim
dead.
Apple.
Who's that
Tim
guy?
Apple.
Tim Cook. Tim Cook. I think I said Steve Jobs in the beginning of this podcast because for historical reasons. Anyway, Tim Cook, you need to go into your stupid company tomorrow, fire some people, and fix this issue. So anyway, that's our TED talk for the day, and that's the end of the podcast. So thanks for coming, and goodbye.
And merch.
And merch, buy our merch, and like, subscribe, comment, and that's the end of the episode. So we just call it. So why we are really here today is to discuss this thing that we found the other day, which is called the anti-work movement. There is a subreddit on Reddit, of course, which is called anti-work, and pretty fascinating stuff. Did you read it? Did you go through it?
Yep, I skimmed through it, man. And yep, fascinating stuff indeed.
Yeah, I mean, so the reason I found it is because I was wasting too much time on Reddit. And I was just looking through some of the posts. You go to a subreddit, and then I sorted it out. They sorted the subreddit by popular posts, and I found a few that were really funny. So the most popular one, I don't know if you have a computer, you can go and check. Of course you have a computer. What I mean is, if you're able to Google it. So one of the top posts is...
I hope this is not one of those you're poor kind of thing.
You are definitely not poor, bro. So anyway, so the people on the anti-work subreddit are poor. So that's actually a good segue. Some of them are poor. So they go in and they tell their boss. Their boss tells them, that it's Thanksgiving or it's Christmas or whatever, and then you need to come in, do some extra work. And then the guy replies, or the girl replies to the boss saying, last time I came in, blah, blah, blah. And then the boss threatens them saying, if you don't show up, you lose your health insurance, or, you lose your job, you lose your girlfriend, whatever. And then the guy goes, fuck you, I quit, bitch. And then everybody upvotes the whole post. So that was the theme of the subreddit, which I found funny.
Oh, is it? It's actually about that?
Well, that is the most popular thing
As
on
in
the
they
subreddit.
share stories and stuff?
Oh yeah, they share stories and stuff, and everybody congratulates people that quit their jobs. But the thing...
What the hell?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So this is one category of thing. But then if you go to the actual subreddit, so this is what I'm trying to do on the side. They have a, how do you call it, a sidebar, right? And then the sidebar has all these links, like any subreddit. So if you go to the guitar subreddit, you get FAQ, all these things. Same thing with this anti-work subreddit. So there's an sidebar.
Right.
And then the sidebar goes, why work is evil, basically. So And some of the stuff there
Okay.
is pretty interesting. So you remember that article I sent you?
Right. Yes.
Same thing. That one was from the whatever the sidebar from that subreddit. And it raises some pretty interesting questions, man. Like some of it is just whining, some of it is just, that people are just lazy and whining, but some of it kind of makes sense. So it was pretty interesting.
True, man.
Yeah.
There's a. It seems like a lot of, like a nuanced topic, right? Right. Like many things are. I think this one also sounds like that. I mean, like you said, there are people whining and all, but some of the points that they were making are actually good in the article.
Exactly. So there is one guy, right, who asked the question, is your job necessary? This makes me think, if you truly think about it, how many jobs do you think are actually necessary? Not that many.
Exactly. Not that many, genuinely.
Think about your
Or rather they are just the consequence of more capitalism, or more selling and more business. Basically, they are not genuinely necessary for advancing humankind as a whole.
Exactly. And I think this is one of the points that article makes. So just think about your normal dude, right? He gets some shitty ass degree that we all got. Honestly, who cares about our degrees, right? I don't. And then you go to some employer, and then you're trying to do some job which is essentially 98% of the time pointless. So for most people it's going to be pretty pointless work, because you're just doing, you're just advancing the goals of your employer at the end of the day for most people. So is it truly satisfying is the question that was being asked, or rather, is it truly satisfying for you or the world, is the question that people on those subreddit are truly trying to ask. And it's a very interesting thought.
So what are some of the outputs? What are some of the things people are saying on that?
Yeah, so the first one is there is a myth, right? So they all try to bust myths. So the first one that people always say is work is necessary. So this one, I'm just going through the article, and I think we should leave links, for all these things. We always say we leave links, but then we never do. So
We never do.
we just kind of forget about it.
It's kind of like our merch.
Yeah, it's kind of like our merch. You just never get it, but you can pay for it. You can Venmo us money. That's cool.
There you go.
Yeah, but the merch will eventually make.
You need to step.
So
You haven't done one of your typical bashings today.
oh,
so
I didn't
you
do
can
any
flex your
bashing
muscles
because we
if you
have no
want.
listeners.
Yeah.
So last time I checked, we didn't post anywhere on Instagram. So now literally nobody's listening to this. So who cares? There is nobody to bash.
So in order to have a successful podcast, it doesn't matter what you're talking in the podcast. You have to go in and promote on Instagram, basically.
Or don't be like us. Don't give a shit if you don't want listeners. Just two dudes talking. That's fine too. So do whatever you want, man. It's your life. So the first one is this: work is necessary, which is pretty funny, and it's a good point. I actually disagree with this. I actually do think work is necessary. So it's
Oh yes, same here, man.
yeah, because
I think so. These guys are basically talking, I guess, from the angle of both money as well as progress kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Of the overall humankind kind of thing also.
yeah.
But I think at a personal level, at a selfish level, I think it is very much necessary to have your mind work on to complicated things to keep your mind alive,
Busy,
basically.
yeah. And the thing is,
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. I have a very personal experience with this. I had a job which paid me pretty good, but I didn't have to do any work there. Honestly, this was one of the most depressing jobs that I've ever done. I could just sit all day and browse Reddit or browse YouTube, and it was absolutely horrifying. So it was very depressing. I quit that job, went somewhere else. But I don't think the people understand here how boring and pointless it is to not have work but get money for it. It's actually quite depressing. So
It's kind of it kind of reminds me of that everyone gets a medal kind of attitude. When you're getting money but not really putting the work, or working hard enough. It's not actually even about just working hard, but about what you're doing in that hard work. If you're not doing something satisfying enough, then it doesn't matter if you get money. It feels like you don't deserve that money, or you don't it's like that reward kind of thing. If you have come last in a race and yet you get a reward, you don't really care about that reward, right? You're like, yeah, well, whatever, I don't care. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
It's kind of like that.
And it doesn't even matter anymore because that reward gives you meaning, right? Not just a reward, but the act of doing work itself gives your life some meaning. So you might not like what you're doing, which is bad. But if you actually like, at least somewhat like what you're doing, then that gives some meaning to your life. Okay, if you truly hate what you're doing, maybe you truly hate it, okay, that's pretty bad. But for us, you know,
then you should switch.
Yeah.
Right.
So for example, for us, right, as engineers, software engineers, whatever, we do some work which might not be the most ideal thing that you want to do every day, right? You might want to wake up every day and do the most high-tech, really cool software engineering that you dream of. But you have constraints, right? Your employer has some work to do. You have to fix some bugs. You have to update some Jira ticket somewhere, you know, some sprint planning, some bullshit like that. But at the end of the day, you're at least in the right direction. So when you do that work at the end of the day, you have some satisfaction for it. At least that's my experience.
Definitely,
Right.
man. It also ends up like you end up learning a lot of things as well, right? While you're doing that thing, even if it's not really that great. And you must have noticed this. While doing the work, it might not feel as epic, but looking back, say 2 years or 3 years in, say, your current job, for example, you feel like, okay, maybe while I was doing that, it didn't seem as rewarding, but looking back, it made my overall, like, knowledge or my experience much more rounded. Like, I know much more amount of things now as an engineer or as a worker, or something like that.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
even those things looking back feel awesome, like when you're like in retrospection.
Yeah, and you also make social connections with people that share your interests. I think this is an underrated thing. So when you work, you usually work with other people. It's very rare these days that you work completely alone. It usually doesn't happen. So
Exactly. Yeah, you do need collaborations mostly.
Exactly. And you might not like everybody at your workplace, right? Speaking in general for, everybody. But there are certain people that you like and, that you admire and then you want to learn from. And hopefully you have put yourself in a place where the ratio of the people that you like to people that you don't like is in your favor. So, yeah, this one I kind of disagree with their ethos.
I think at the bottom they are trying to make a similar point, right? Work is a path to fulfillment, and I think that kind of is trying to say that even though that is not true, which is also the same thing we're talking about, right? And there's a poster there, if you see. If hard work were such a wonderful thing, surely the rich would have kept it to themselves. So this type of attitude, it doesn't really resonate with me, because this whole, the rich are trying to take shit away. Yeah, maybe they might be doing some unethical bad shit, but I mean, as a whole, if you just sit there talking like, the rich are not doing this, the rich are not doing that, then what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't help anybody.
You do something, right? Yeah.
And the rich usually are not trying to take money from you. The rich are busy being rich. They are doing their own thing. For example, Elon Musk, like this guy is trying to go to Mars. He's trying to solve the energy crisis, all this stuff. So he's not necessarily waking up every day morning and going, how do I take money from common people? It would be very unlikely that he's doing that. It's more likely that he's trying to increase, productivity for his business or whatever, But this might be for selfish reasons, right? So he's trying to probably maximize profit, which is fine. But he's definitely not trying to, say, oh, let's take money from the common people. I would be shocked if that is the attitude that they have.
I really don't think so. They do, man. They don't have the time for this shit. Like,
exactly.
So yeah, there have been maybe rich people throughout the history who have been specifically bad to poor people. But these days, I believe overall, like if someone is like just capitalistic in mindset, again there is also nuance there. It's not like all capitalists are epic or nice or good people, but more often than not, like for example Elon Musk, right? It's a perfect example of like a person who's capitalistic also, but also he's trying to make a better like place for everyone, right? Not just on earth but maybe outside as well,
right?
Like,
Exactly.
and to me, whoever argues like there's obviously a lot of shit on earth, why don't they fix that first? But I'm like, yeah, of course there is, and yeah, that needs to be fixed, no doubt. But if you just keep thinking like that, then you will never actually try to push boundaries.
Exactly.
And when you try to push boundaries, then many a times even the things that wouldn't have been fixed on earth, they have get some solution indirectly, and then everyone benefits, it's kind of like that.
Yep. And the thing is, I mean, the people that argue, saying Earth has enough problems, it's true. Earth has enough problems, but you know what else Earth
It
has?
does.
Earth has enough people. So there are 8 billion people on Earth, or whatever, 7 billion people on Earth. There is one Elon Musk. Okay. So let Elon Musk work on whatever he wants to work on. So go to Mars, extract carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to make rocket fuel, which seems to be his latest thing. Let him do whatever you want.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. But there are 7.99999 billion other people on the earth. Why are they not solving problems? If you're...
So if the people, so if the people who are like complaining about Elon Musk, if they stop doing that and actually start working themselves, whatever little they can contribute, I think that will still make the earth much better place than, just saying like rich people or Elon Musk or, those people should do that because they're rich.
Exactly.
He didn't like get rich, especially if you're not getting the rich, like the money from your parents or something. Then, I mean, Elon is one of those, right? He didn't get it from his parents.
I think he did get some money from his parents, whatever.
Yeah, but not at the level.
Obviously not.
Dude,
no.
it's nowhere close to
obviously
at the level where he is today.
It's not like
he is the richest man, right? I think.
Yeah, by far now. So this is this is very true.
Yeah, so there's one more point here again, like in that similar thing, like I have seen the attitude of some people who, which I bet you also don't believe and even I don't believe, is that people think that it's like a, I don't know, is that called zero sum game or something, where if someone is getting richer, others are getting poorer. If you always look at it like that, then of course it will be like, it will like go on. But if the poor obviously also tries to work harder and harder, or like learns more things, tries to change the world, then they can also, like, everyone can benefit, right? The world can benefit. So instead of saying that he or she is becoming richer and we can pull them down or make everyone equal, instead, why not like everyone try to do better? And of course I also am of the belief that say the very poor people in the world, like of the society, I do think everyone should help them get to a certain place where at least they're not starving and they don't have to think about just food or something like that, like basic. But apart from that, I don't think there's like help needed for anyone apart from just a very 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 bottom few who genuinely, even after working, have so less education or know-how about how to be, that they can't even survive. I think that as a humanitarian way, maybe everyone should help, but apart from that, everyone else should work.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is a classic argument of socialism versus capitalism, right? So in socialism, if you have $100 and 4 people, then you divide it 4 ways, right? And then everybody gets an equal share and then everybody's done. The problem with that is, once you get an equal share, people don't do equal work. So the thing that capitalism...
Indeed, man.
Right? So...
And this always happens, right? This always happens. Like,
proven,
as soon as you take away the competition, as soon as you take away, like, if you work harder, you get better stuff. If you take away that single thing,
it's gone.
Then people are like, why should I work, right? Why should I work more if I'm still gonna end up with the same shit?
Exactly. So you cannot just entitle people to some benefit, because somebody has to produce something, which is the root of capitalism. This is the concept of capitalism that I do support, which makes sense to me, right? So you have to produce something to have consumers, and if you work harder and if there is a demand for it, people will buy it. Okay, I get it. Now, of course, it can go too far, right? So the other end of the argument is, if you go to some mall or something these days, 99% of stuff sold there is pretty much garbage, right? So there is some, garbage ass, clothes that are sold, some gadgets that nobody cares about, phone cases, all this clutter that we see. So there's so much shit that capitalism creates that we probably don't need. So there should probably be some sort of prioritization mechanism, as to what is good for capitalism, or what is good for the world overall. Some sort of like giant cost function that determines how to waste, or rather not waste, resources. But of course, if you do that, then you bring regulation, which means then you bring government control, which defeats capitalism in the first place. So it's kind of a circular argument. So it's very hard to solve this problem of mindless consumerism and capitalism versus how do you make society fully equal? But regardless of where you go, in my opinion, people should do
Right.
some work.
Dude, indeed, man. I mean, I think so sometimes I feel like, for example, if you look at countries, okay, so sometimes I feel, for example, United States, right, they are a bit too capitalistic at too many places, of course they are. I mean,
Yep.
they are freaking United States,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's the fundamental of it. But like you said, the consumerism and the sheer amount of waste they produce and the impact, like carbon footprint they have, all of those things are like really bad things about capitalism, and that brings like flack to capitalism, that it is evil and it is shit, and like rich people are doing this, rich people, it's not like that. It's about everyone, right?
Yep.
Like if you look at America, for example, even the not rich people make like so much garbage, waste so much thing, like have so much carbon footprint on the planet,
Yeah,
it
for
is
sure.
crazy. It's not just the rich who do it. So I think this is definitely the negative side of capitalism and just consumerism as a whole. And I think from like what's 60s, 70s or 80s, right? I think from US 70s and 80s, from then onwards, I think it even became really bad. I think
Yeah.
it was like that.
Yeah, and the concept of poor in America and the poverty in the world is two different things. So
Is
it's
completely
two
different.
things.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
here, poor means that you still would have some sort of house. Unless you're completely homeless, you would probably still have a
But even
smartphone.
then,
Like clean
yeah, but
water, like
even
all
then,
this
I
stuff.
think you get food and shit, right?
No,
Exactly.
you don't get
Exactly.
food. So
I
in
think
the US, there is no
you
socialist.
don't get
No,
free food
no,
for some poor people.
nope. So that is really fucked up. So if you're really poor,
But then you should, right?
yeah,
In that case, like if you're genuinely poor and if you can't even have enough food to,
yeah.
enough money to get food, then you should be given food,
Yeah,
right?
and this is where America really is falling behind. Like especially in big cities like San Francisco and LA, they are becoming real shitholes. So there, and when I mean shithole, I actually mean this in a literal sense. If you walk on the streets of San Francisco, there is literal shit now. There's homeless people. There are tents. It's worse than India, by the way.
Are you
Yeah,
serious?
yeah. So
Are you
yeah,
serious?
this is worse than India. There are tents, actual tents. Those flyovers are under those flyover tents in India. There are bigger tents and bigger camps in San Francisco and LA. I'm not kidding, by the way. And it's crazy.
Dude, I did not know this.
Yeah, I've taken pictures. It's ridiculous, by the way. There's literal shit on the roads. There's beggars. There is a whole other section of society that is completely fucked in America at the moment because of whatever is going on. So they are legitimately poor. They don't have money to eat. They have nowhere to go. There are no shelters. They freeze in the cold. A lot of them die. It's pretty messed up, and there's a lot of crime. So San Francisco decriminalized a lot of crimes. So for example, you can now steal $650 worth of goods from any store. Decriminalized. They cannot prosecute you for that. So people just go
Dude,
in.
what the hell?
Yeah. So they just break stores open. They steal whatever they want and walk out, and you can find videos of this on YouTube. It's crazy.
Dude, that is crazy. Dude, what is happening, man? I did not know
Yeah,
this.
it's called flash
The-
mobs.
isn't this like an extreme side of what capitalism does?
Yeah.
Then? Because like all the opportunity and all the equal opportunity and all of those awesome things that we like about capitalism, which we hate about socialism, which who want equal outcome for everyone,
Yep.
right? But then when capitalism also goes too far and people care only about money and nothing else, not about humanity
Yep.
or the planet and all of that, then this shit happens, right?
Oh, dude,
And I
it's
think
fucked
even
up.
in the article that we were reading, right, even there it says, right, like for like talking about global warming, they were talking about that, right?
Yeah.
And then people are like, what are like businessmen and politicians doing about that, right? What they're doing, they are finding out more ways to cash in regarding green initiatives and clean coal, green investment firms and all that shit,
Yeah.
right? Which actually also increases more consumption and all
Yep.
of that.
Yeah, so you're
I mean-
exactly right. Yeah, and when you make everything for profit, there are sections of society that get completely fucked over, which is exactly what is happening in America today. And by the way, every major city, this is not just San Francisco and LA, although the problem there is way worse. I would never want to live there anymore. But even in Austin, I was in Austin, pretty new-ish city, crazy amounts of
Right.
homeless people. I've never seen so
Similar.
yeah. I'm comparing this.
So is it like slums and
Slums,
all, or
slums.
like is it like how
There
is
are
it like
more
it's like
slums,
India
dude.
or
Worse. It is worse than India. I'm not kidding. So at least in India, you know that these people are poor and they have some, like those the chawl or whatever they live in, right? So
right?
So there is okay, those are the poor sections. These are slum. This is slum housing. It is worse in America, bro. I'm not kidding. You go to a slum in America, it is 100 times worse than an Indian slum. So because you know what they have,
Damn,
which
man.
is unique? Crime. They have crime here, which is really fucked up.
Hmm.
So in Indian slums, you can
Right.
walk around and usually you won't die. That's not necessarily the case in America. You could die there. So it's really sad.
And I think having guns legally available everywhere is also not helping that particular cause, right?
Exactly.
I mean, the gun discussion is a total different discussion, and that's not a part of this.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that having guns is making things even worse, right?
And for the richest country in the world, I think they should be able to help a few dudes out who are on the streets. Come on, like just build.
Oh, dude, come
Right.
on, man. Dude, that is seriously.
Don't fire three missiles. Build 3 houses. Every missile is like what, $3 million. Build a few, apartments. Put them in apartments. Give them some job. Do something, man. Come on, like you need some level of help that the government should provide to these people. But
So I think what an ideal government should be is basically an open market kind of government, capitalistic kind of government, democratic, obviously democratic,
Yeah.
but at the very bottom part of the society. Does not matter what religion, caste, sex, sexual orientation, none of that should matter. The bottom part of the society, who are like on money, basically, who are earning not enough that they cannot even feed themselves, those people should across the board be helped by all the tax paying things and government schemes and stuff like that. And again, there also what they should do is have some sort of like token or some sort of time system where you cannot just because you're getting free food, you cannot just stay there with no consequences for life. No, you have to try to at least try to get out of it.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
should be some mechanism, because even there, if you keep giving people just free basic food, there will be some who will be like, okay, this is the life I want to have, which is also bullshit.
Yeah. So
And that kind of takes away from the people who genuinely need that, like who genuinely can't make like their ends meet and they're screwed up.
yeah, exactly. And Sweden has a system like that in place. So of course, Sweden is an extremely socialist country. So they have the socialist system in place where they help people and so on. But then they don't have the the benefits of capitalism. Sweden is it's a rich country, and all on indexes it shows they're happy and everything. But God, it's a sad, boring place that nobody cares about. So there is a balance there. So you can't.
Dude, it will be miserable if
Yeah.
everyone just gets free things. Then
I hate it. I just hate that idea. Yeah.
And I heard somewhere, I don't know if this was in Sweden or Germany or some Europe, EU like country, I heard, like many EU countries rather, I heard that young people are leaving jobs in their like 20s and 30s and traveling the world, because they are like, yeah, the government will pay for me, so I don't need to give a shit anymore, and I'll just enjoy my life, travel, won't work, won't get more skills, won't improve humanities, like like humanity in general. And they're doing that shit, man. So I'm like, you're literally misusing the system.
Yeah, and that's
And who's gonna pay for it later, right? When you're old, but everyone is in the same lifestyle and no one is paying taxes, then where do you think the money comes from?
Yeah, you cannot just magically produce money somewhere. So I know where that money will come from. It will come from China. When China goes to Sweden and parks, right? They'll park a warship.
They'll park the warship. They'll tell Sweden to give the base, like their their coastline and all of those like military bases, and they'll be like, okay, we'll give you money in loan, which you also need to pay back, obviously, else we are taking over.
Yeah, and they will take over regardless, because they park your...
And they will. Because, Chinese people won't do that bullshit, right? Because of the dictatorship, like because of communism rather. They won't they won't have the luxury to, dream that I won't work, and no. They'll get shot.
You work. Exactly. You work. There you don't have a choice. By the way, speaking of China, and who cares, because this is our podcast, we can talk about whatever. Distracting from the topic. Today I saw 2 interesting news stories coming out of China. So the first one is DJI, the drone company, DJI. So I have a DJI
yes, of
drone.
course. Yeah, even I have the DJI gimbal.
Right. So they are now banned in the US from an investment standpoint. Apparently, they've been spying through their videos. So they were leaking all information. So you capture a video through your drone. So people were flying them at like, whatever federal bases, sensitive critical infrastructure, wherever in the US. Apparently, all that data made its way to China. So
Not surprised at all.
not surprised. But that was proven, and now they're stopping investments in that. And the second one, even more fucked up, actually similar level of fucked up, a new Chinese company called HGAO and something like that. We'll put a link to that. They created a copy of AMD's Zen processor, pin for pin, which also fits into the AM4 slot. And actually, so I read because creating a chip like that is very hard. AMD actually had a collaboration with some Chinese firm to do that. So these stupid people still don't get it, that when you create a collaboration for sharing IP, in 5 years, they create something that is better than you, and then you get out of business. So for a very short-term gain.
Are white people stupid? Like, are they stupid? This has been happening for so long now. I mean, at least now understand that Chinese will blatantly copy shit and they won't respect any IP laws and anything like that.
No, it's gone.
Stop it for profits, gone. Man. Stop it.
It's gone. Because now they produce the first Zen 3 chip. The Zen chip. It's not Zen 3. So AMD is on Zen 3 architecture. They're on Zen. But still, it doesn't matter, because the moment you can produce one chip and it's done. Now they can hire people or steal everything else to create the next one and the next one and the next one. So once they can produce one or two, that's it. And so they are entering the motherboard market now. So the server market. So they're going to be producing chips for Chinese servers.
So we are all extremely screwed.
Yeah, we are fucked, because now they have closed IP and they're going to be Chinese servers, running Chinese chips. So you can only imagine the kind of data access that those chips will have. Basically, you can assume that anything that you type on these machines is gone. So, that's
dude, that is sad. That is sad. It's like that ARM news, right? We were talking about a few days ago.
Exactly. Yeah, exact same thing. So same thing happened to ARM.
What the hell is wrong with people? And okay, dude, this is one more weird thing actually I don't get. So, I think NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA was trying to take over ARM, and the government ended up blocking that for some, some reason, right? Some monopoly,
the reason is simple.
Or some
it's
reason
a monopoly,
like that.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. But then you could do that with your own American company, who by the way would be a significantly better company to own ARM. But then when China does it, when a Chinese arm of ARM does it, you are like, you just don't do shit, right? What is that? That is so stupid.
It's kind of crazy fucked up, because the thing is, when a Chinese company wants to invest in your company, right, they don't have to worry about what the American government is saying or the EU is saying. They just don't care. They just come in, trade your money. You get some money for it. You give them your IP and it's done. You don't have to go through the regulator, because the regulator is the CCP. They don't give a shit. Actually, they want this stuff to happen, right? But in the US, when you want to do stuff like that, or in the EU, you have to go through some regulator and all this stuff who is, in some sense trying to, prevent monopolies, which is good. But
no, that is good.
At what
I think
cost?
The intention is good, right? I think the original intention of all these, Microsofts of the world and, all of the monopoly that they used to have, that's why all these laws came along, right? But in the phase of it, like, step back at least a few meters from the thing and look at what is happening in the world. China is literally taking all the IPs. They don't give a shit about anything. When they are going to have all these technologies inside them, they won't sell that or give those IPs out to anyone. It will be completely not just closed sourced code, but closed government also. So you can't do shit. And while you are not allowing, ARM to be picked up by NVIDIA, for example, and yet all of this. So it's so stupid if you come to think about it.
Yeah, it's sad, man. It's not just stupid, it's sad, because you can just slowly see the communist takeover happening. I just don't like it. I don't want to live in a world like that, that would suck. And then all these anti-work people who think that work is a choice. At the moment, it's a choice, right? You can quit your job. Just wait 25 years and wait for the communist takeover, and then work will not be a choice anymore. You will work. So
you will have to work.
You will
to physically survive, to physically survive, you'll have to work, else you'll be shot basically,
Exactly.
or put
No.
through some camp or something like.
Yep.
What
And
they
this
call
is
it,
not an
correction,
exaggeration.
correction camp, right? What do they call it?
Yeah, something like that. I think it's called intern. I forget. Whatever. So there is one more article very related to this by somebody called Cassandra V. And Cassandra V's bio is quite interesting, to say the least. I'll just read it here. Cassandra V is a trans woman in Philadelphia who hates her job, her boss, and her landlord. Okay. Now, without making any comments on, first of all, I don't know why we need to know she's a trans woman, right? So that just seems like peacocking a little bit to me. I don't know. Like, why do I need to know this, right? And then it says, hates her job, her boss, and her landlord. Like, if this is your bio, come on, like, are you nothing else? Maybe you're an artist, right? Maybe you're, maybe you do amazing photography, or maybe you're an incredible writer. Why don't you write something like that? Like Cassandra V is an artist based out of San Francisco, or whatever, Philadelphia. Or why don't you write Cassandra V is, whatever, passionate about cooking, whatever, who cares, right? Like, do something. And then the article, she's written one article on this website called thenewenquiry.com. And the article is Work Sucks. Now, this one was actually quite bad. So I read it. I don't think I sent it to you. But this one was actually is bad. So the first one, it just starts off like this. I'll just read it. It just says, like, hating the police, hating your job is one of the most beautiful and natural things you can do, which is why popular culture works so hard to convince us that cops are heroes and jobs are actually good.
Dude, that is so screwed up at the start itself.
Yeah, and not just screwed up. I think they don't have global perspective. Like, in places where crime is high, you need police. Imagine, like, you're in some, fucked up neighborhood in India, and you and me, we have been in places like this, where, some gouty terrorist can kill you, right? You need, well, not a terrorist, but a criminal, right? Like, high crime areas. You need some law and order here. Don't say cops they are heroes sometimes, they save lives. So just don't make generalizations like this. I think
more often than not, they are heroes, right? They do actually, as in, if you don't just follow the media, and if you look at all the silent workers, like all the people who silently work, for the betterment of society, I think net cops are like definitely, needed and good, as in they do good shit, I believe.
Exactly. And come on, if you think about it, most cops, right, they have good intentions. Of course, there are going to be, people in, there are evil people everywhere. So, of course, there are going to be evil cops. There are going to be cops that, are
definitely
racist and sexist and all these things. But on the whole, right, cops, in my opinion, are trying to do a good job. And this article is just, it's just all complaining. Basically, this is a pretty terrible article overall. It's very pro-socialist, and the whole idea is that, she wants people to pursue art and philosophy and read books and sit and have coffee and all these things and eat grapes. And listen, if you do this in 20 minutes, I guarantee you will be bored the fuck out. It's like, you'll be like, throw those grapes away, throw your wine away, give me something meaningful to do. So this is the flip side of anti-work. This is in my opinion anti-work going too far.
Dude, seriously. I mean, all that reading and grapes and all of that is great if that's actually a means to something, right? If you're just reading and doing nothing, and that's it, you're just reading and you're not doing anything about what you read, or what you read isn't interesting enough, or it's not anything awesome, then what's the point of just reading, right? And the second thing that stood out to me in this whole profile, like you also were mentioning, is that she's so proud of the fact that she isn't working, or doesn't like to work, doesn't like cops, doesn't like rent, and things like that. She's so proud about that. I mean, what's there to be proud about it, right? It's just life. It's normal life for normal people, man. I mean, you have to pay rent if you want. See, you didn't have the money at that time, or the timing, or luck, any of these things, when that particular property was being bought, right? So that's why now you have to rent it out. But then that's the value of the property, right? And yeah, it's unfair. Obviously, it's unfair. Like, even in the cities we live in. If we want to get a property at a good place, we want to, for example, right now, today in 2021, we can't, right? Because the rates are so expensive that it's almost pointless. But then that's okay, right? That's how it works. Like if I take
That's
a
how it
property
works.
like maybe 30-40 kilometers away from my city, 50 kilometers away from my city, I'll be able to afford it today. And maybe then down the line, maybe 20 years down the line, that will become like a good area, and then it'll be expensive. But then I will be the
Yeah.
one who has that, right? And
Yeah,
why
exactly.
complain about it, and why be proud about it? That's even worse. Like, I hate it when people are proud about wrong things, that always baffles me. Like, okay, maybe you're complaining, okay, life is unfair, right? We know it's unfair, it's shit, obviously, many times it's shit, but that's okay. So say you're complaining, at least at some level. If you're, it's still bad, obviously, but I would be like, okay, let's consider that. But if you're proud about something that you're doing, you're being stupid, and you're
Yeah.
extremely proud about it, that's just
Yeah.
what's with that, man?
That is a meaningless life to live. I mean, think about it. And to be clear, like some people will say, like, we are commenting on the trans woman. We are not singling anybody out.
Oh,
I
dude, I had
know.
forgotten that you
Yeah.
even mentioned that she's
No,
trans.
no, I had to mention it because these days, people will catch on to things that you and me will not recognize the first way. We just read that bio, right? And what we focused on is, why she hates her job, her boss, and her landlord. And we are even using the correct pronouns and everything here. Like, we don't care, right? People should be whoever they want to be.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
fine
yeah,
by me.
very much.
But
Exactly, man.
but what I'm against is this attitude that she has here, right? Of hating her job, hating her boss, and hating her landlord. And if you truly hate these three things, and I'm sure a lot of people are in that situation, do something to change it. Don't make
Change
that your
it,
life.
exactly,
Yeah.
man, exactly. And
Yeah.
everyone has an option to change it, right? Either, if you have to decide how miserable you are with that, right? If you are enough miserable, if you are enough miserable with all of these things, get up and change that damn thing, right? I mean, look at it like this. If all of these things, and these are pretty important things, right? If all of those things piss you off, you're literally miserable, then how can it be worse than this, right? She literally
Exactly.
hates everything. She hates her boss, she hates her work, she hates everything. Then anything you do other than what you're doing currently will put you in a better state than what you are right now. So why not just
Yep.
go ahead and do it?
Yeah, no, this is just sad. And this article, I really hope that she has found her, calling at some point, because
Who is this
living a
person,
life
by
like
the way?
this, I just sent you the link on Signal. Cassandra V. She wrote an article for the New Inquiry, and this is a linked article on the anti-work subreddit. So there is more people reading it. I hope people don't share this attitude, man, because this is not going to get you anywhere. I guarantee it. So regardless, maybe you don't even want to work, which is, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're lazy. I don't know, but at least do something for yourself in that case. Don't be that person that hates everything. So, and this article is just complaining, just complaining.
And if you don't
So,
want capitalism, for example, or if you don't want any of these things, just get up, move to some northern state of Canada or somewhere like that, and just
yeah,
be in woods, right? Live a life that is, it has no technology, no Instagram, no, none of the modern comforts and any of that, and live a honest, honest, brutal life, which
yeah,
is grounded, and which is also might be very rewarding, right? If I mean,
yeah,
if that's something you want to do, go ahead and do it. Just do it, it'll be awesome, you'll love it. Like,
yeah. I
but
mean,
but many
I have a
times
friend that
people,
does that. Yeah, it's but it's hard, man. See, the
it's,
problem is
dude,
these people are
that is
entitled.
harder, right? That is actually harder to do. What the life we are living is, so we have so many convenience, right? Modern day conveniences, you take all of those things away and it's not easy. But these people want the positives of these modern conveniences with zero negatives or zero hard work in that, which how is that possible?
It's not possible. And listen, you have to work for some. You cannot. Nothing in this world is free, and you might want it to be free, but that's just not how things are. So it, that's the bad news there. I hope everybody wants this world to be free and ideal, and everybody is having ton shits of money and flying around in private jets and whatever. But listen, that's not the reality of the world. And if you want it, you have to work very hard for it. And why do you have to work very hard for it? Because there are other people who will compete with you for this. It's not that you just wake up one day and get everything for free. So Sorry guys, that's not going to happen. So on the other side, I
Exactly.
do support this anti-work subreddit when it comes to low wages. I think especially in developed countries, especially in the US, I don't know about other places, it's really messed up how low the wages are for a normal working class human being, especially given the skyrocketing rents and the crazy cost of health insurance and everything. If you make 15, 17, $20 an hour, you are living in poverty these days, so you cannot support yourself, forget about a family. So it is for them, yes, we need more wages. And
Dude, that was really saddening when you were talking about, all of those slums and all of those things.
yeah,
That shocked me. I didn't know that that in
yeah,
US also those things exist, because of course
dude, it's
everywhere
crazy.
else in the world, yeah, it's true, right? For example, India, if you look at it, but then
Yeah,
at least India as a country, if you note, it has, since it hasn't been a totally rich country per se, the population, one good thing in a sense is that most of these common things that you need, like basic food, or basic most shelter, or those things are not that expensive, right? So more
yeah, yeah,
people can afford, because that's how the overall country as a whole has grown up, right? As in, India is of course getting richer and richer, and everyone overall is, I think, like getting, even like the poorer people conventionally are now at, comparatively better places in cities. They have better like internet connections, they have like electricity that flows all the time, all
definitely,
of
yeah.
these basic things, right? So overall, at least in that sense, India is doing better, right? Whereas I guess in the US, it has always been a comparatively richer country, right? Obviously it has
I mean,
been.
it's the
So
richest country
for
on
a
earth, so
person who is not, yeah, the richest, exactly. And for the person who is not rich, then it is significantly worse, because even the basic things like basic food and basic things are also going to be super expensive, because the overall population can afford much higher rate for all of those things, right?
yeah. And not just that, the thing is, yeah, those things matter, but like the very basic stuff, right? Like healthcare. So let's say you have an infection in India, you can go to a pharmacy and buy antibiotics. Even a poor person in India can buy antibiotics for say 100 rupees. You get whatever penicillin, right?
Oh yeah,
You
and
cannot.
also government
Yeah,
hospitals, many a
yeah,
times you get free treatment, right? Even
free
that is
treatment.
there. That is so
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, so here you can't do that. So if you have an infection and if you don't have health insurance, you go to urgent care. Urgent care is, by the way, one of these centers where it's basically that you have a doctor and a few nurses and they can do some basic tests, and it's pretty good. I use these things all the time. It's really good. But I have insurance, right? So like health insurance. But if you go there without health insurance, every single visit is like $400, $400, $450, or even more than that. To a person who's making $100 a week, $400, $500 is not something they can afford. And this is the cheapest, this is the cheapest of the cheapest healthcare that you can get.
Dude, are
God
you serious?
forbid
So
if you,
$400 for one
yeah,
visit
yeah,
you're talking about, right?
yeah. And I mean, this is without health insurance. I pay $5, which is crazy, right? Like, because I have health insurance, I have to pay like $4 or $5, which is what, it's
Dude,
free
that is
basically.
insane, man. That, like, it's business basically, business for
Yeah,
even medical things.
exactly. So that's exactly what it is. And when I buy antibiotics, so I recently had some whatever infection. I went to a doctor. They gave me some antibiotics. I went to the pharmacy to get my antibiotics. I paid 30 cents for it. But the price for that,
What the hell, man?
yeah, because it's free, right? But if you didn't have insurance, that would have been like $80 or $90. So, and then the cost of your doctor would have been like $400, $500. So you're
And the
four,
fact
five,
that you
five
didn't,
$50.
and the fact that you don't have insurance means you couldn't afford it, right? More often than not. And then
Exactly.
for those people, it's actually much worse, because they didn't have
Exactly.
the money to be in the business of the people who, sell insurance, and that's why the system kind of screws them over.
Exactly. And they probably need that cheaper cost more than I do, right? Which is the ironic part here. So I
Exactly.
will be able to afford a $500 hit just to get those antibiotics, which is fine. But somebody who does not have money, they are fucked. They need that $5.60 treatment that I got, the same treatment, because I had insurance, because insurance is paying for it. They need it at that cost, right? And they don't have it. So this is
Dude, that is
so fucked up,
insane.
Yeah,
And this
so
has
this
been,
is
so this was also for vaccine, by the way, for COVID vaccine also you needed
no,
to pay.
no. So COVID vaccine was a special case where the government paid for everybody. So if you had health insurance, your insurance paid for your COVID vaccine, and if you did not have insurance, then the government paid for your vaccine. But COVID is one of those things that had emergency funding and all these things, right, from the government. So it's a big exception to this. But normal healthcare, if you break your leg, that's going to be $10,000. For me, probably going to be $100. So, and if you need a
Dude,
surgery,
that is
that's
so
probably going to
screwed
be Dude, yeah. If you need a surgery without health insurance, depending on the surgery, could be $100,000. For me, it's going to be, I don't know, $700-800. So the more healthcare you need and the poorer you are, the more you're fucked. And this is debt that goes on your credit, so they can't get rid of it. So if you have 2 accidents in a year, this is like $100,000 on your. You owe this now. So if you try to get a phone, you can't get a phone anymore because your credit sucks, and your credit sucks because you owe all this money to your hospital. So it catches people in this vicious trap where they can never get out. So it's really fucked up.
Dude, this is kind of like China, man. I mean, of course, not as worse as China, but dude, it's so close. It's so close to China.
Yeah, it's really
With
fucked
the
up.
whole social score and all of that.
Yeah, the credit score. Yeah, the other thing is there is a huge student loan problem. So every other debt in the US.
Yes, I've heard this. Right.
Yeah. So every other debt in the US, let's say you owe $100,000 to, say, Beaumont Hospital, which is a big chain in Michigan. I just made, I'm using an example. That can be forgiven if you file for bankruptcy. And in 10 years, your bankruptcy will go away. Bankruptcy really ruins your credit, but it's something that you can be forgiven for even though it is 10 years later. Now, student loan is a special case that can never be forgotten, not even in death. So it carries on to the next of kin. So let's say, and this is where things it gets really fucked up.
That is
At
insane.
Yeah, it is really fucked up. So at 17, 18, these kids go to school for some useless degree, right? Which, say a history major. And when I say useless, I mean from a financial standpoint. It might be very fulfilling to you. But let's say that degree costs $300,000, right? They can never afford to pay off $300,000 because interest starts racking up. So they keep paying this until they die, basically, and it never goes away. And if they do die before paying it off, it goes to their kid or wife or whatever. So it really fucks people up forever. So you would expect that a rich country like America subsidizes education, but nope, it's fucked up, man.
That's extreme, bro. That is
it
extreme.
is extreme. With that, I think, should we call it? This was a good podcast, I think. I enjoyed it.
Yep, definitely, man. It's a pretty long
stuff.
one too this time.
A pretty long one, yeah. I have, probably 30-35 minutes. I don't know. Who knows?
52 minutes.
Holy shit. Okay. Well, that's it. Buy our merch,
Yep.
and until next time.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.